In 1984, there were 757 murders and over 51,000 violent crimes in Los Angeles. Veteran officer Sal LaBarbera later recalled that he was once sent to 5 murder scenes in a single night. "I took the first one. My partner took the second. We were leapfrogging each other. We would process the crime scene and complete our reports in time to go to the next crime scene and do it all over again." The cause of this situation was a drug called crack cocaine. Unlike powdered cocaine, which was mainly popular among the wealthy in the 1970s, crack was extremely cheap and highly addictive. In the early 1980s, crack appeared in South Los Angeles. What followed was one of the most destructive social crises in American history, the crack epidemic. In those days, gangs carved up the streets, and the number of violent crimes exploded. Many poor young female addicts began trading sex for drugs. Some of them ended up dead, becoming corpses. On May 29, 1987, the Los Angeles Police Department got a call that a woman's body had been found in an abandoned house in the Watts neighborhood. The victim was Carolyn Barney, a 29-year-old black woman who had been raped and sodomized before being strangled to death. After the crime scene was secured, the officers noticed something strange. A black man was pacing back and forth outside the tape, watching their actions. From a professional standpoint, the man was either the killer returning to the scene or a witness hesitating to come forward out of fear or guilt. But to avoid jumping to conclusions, the officers did not move in. Shortly after, a witness provided crucial information, telling the officers that shortly before Barney's body was found, he had seen her talking with that man behind a station wagon just hours before she was killed. Given the man's suspicious behavior and the fact that he had been lingering nearby, the officers decided to bring him in for questioning. After confirming his identity, they learned his name was Louis Craine, 30 years old, a construction worker who had just lost his job, and he lived only a few steps away from the house where Barney's body was found. The officers assigned to the case later recalled that Craine first appeared to be a mild-mannered individual. He did not appear to be the type of person that would commit such violent crimes. But this impression was quickly shattered. As the questioning went on, Craine admitted that he had argued with Barney. He took her to that house and pressed his forearm against her neck. He thought she was just sleeping. Then, under more questioning by officers, Craine admitted that when he left the abandoned house, he knew she was dead. However, at this moment, Craine suddenly stopped speaking and asked everyone in the room to pray with him. After the prayer ended, he continued speaking and confessed to 2 more murders. 24-year-old Loretta Perry. Her body was found on January 25, 1987. Initially, the police believed she had died of a drug overdose. In South Los Angeles at that time, the death of a poor woman was usually explained as a drug overdose. It was not until Craine described in detail how he had strangled her that her body was exhumed and confirmed how she really died. Then there was Vivian Collins, who was found dead on March 18, 1987. She had also been raped and strangled. When Craine spoke about her case, he said the killer was his brother, Roger, not him. They had paid Collins for sex, and Roger had strangled her while having sex with her. But this story was proven false after police investigation, as multiple relatives, including Craine's mother, provided Roger with an alibi for the day of the crime. Around the same time, officers went back and looked at earlier unsolved cases. That was when they noticed that on November 18, 1984, 30-year-old Sheila Burton had been stabbed and strangled. Her body was found near his parents' home. And 24-year-old Gail Ficklin, whose body was found on August 15, 1985, in the alley behind Craine's parents' home, she had also been raped and strangled. Because the crimes were similar in pattern, Craine was also charged with these 2 murders. 5 victims, all strangled to death, 4 of them raped, and all victims were found within walking distance of Craine's residence. In 1989, Craine's trial began. It was his second trial, and he was charged with 5 murders. The prosecution was firm. Their goal was a death sentence. They stated that Craine's confessions completely matched the forensic evidence. The most important piece of physical evidence was a shirt stained with blood. and that blood matched the type of one of the victims. Crane's mother also took the stand, not to defend him, she came to speak against him. She first confirmed the prosecution's evidence, saying that after one of the murders, she saw Craine come home wearing that blood-stained shirt. And then, from the witness box, she told the court the story of her son's life. On January 6, 1957, Craine was born in Los Angeles. He was the third of 4 children. Their family was an ordinary working-class family in the Watts neighborhood. From an early age, the boy showed signs of intellectual disability. He fell far behind in school, and at that time, it was clear he could not keep up with any normal classroom progress. So after Craine finished the 4th grade, he dropped out of school and ran away from home and ended up on the streets. In those days, a black boy who had not even finished elementary school had almost no one to turn to on the streets of Los Angeles. He could only hang around on the streets or pick up odd jobs. Over the next dozen or so years, the only work Craine could find was some odd jobs at construction sites. But even this kind of work was unstable. At the time of his arrest, he had just lost his job and moved back in with his parents. Up to this point, in his mother's account, Craine did not seem to have violent tendencies, but then she revealed something else. In court, she said that he had an unusual and aggressive anger about certain types of girls, especially female prostitutes that use crack. The prosecution then added that an angry man with a violent streak, and he knew things only the killer could know. In response, Craine took back all of his confessions and accused his family of perjury. He told the judge, "Yes, I did lie to them. One thing led to another. It was a big mistake." When Deputy District Attorney John Watson asked him, "You're just an innocent man then?" he replied, "That's the way it is." Crane's attorney argued that he was not someone who could be fairly tried. They described him as a functionally illiterate man with an IQ of 69 and a 4th grade education, and pointed out that under the pressure of prolonged interrogation, he was highly suggestible. The details he repeated may have been fed to him by the police, not his own memory. They also questioned whether the shirt really belonged to Craine and asked the court for a psychiatric evaluation. But the court denied the request, ruling that he was fit to stand trial. In the end, the verdict on Craine came down. For the murder of Sheila Burton, the first victim found, he was found not guilty due to lack of evidence. But on the other 4 counts, Carolyn Barney, Loretta Perry, Vivian Collins, Gail Ficklin, first-degree murder, guilty on all counts. In June 1989, Craine was formally sentenced to death. He was to be sent to the gas chamber at San Quentin State Prison. But the execution day never came for Craine, media, and the victims' families. Because while on death row, he was diagnosed with AIDS. His health began to decline fast. Then, on November 3, 1989, he died in the bed, less than 5 months after he was sentenced to death. Craine was responsible for only 4 murders, but those 4 murders were special because the victims were not strangers. They were his neighbors, living in his community.